Hello and welcome, friends. We're back again with Usanas Dialogues, and today we have a very distinguished expert with us, Dr. Adil Rasheed. Dr. Adil Rasheed has been to our events earlier also, and he is one of the most eminent authority on terrorism and pan-Islamism and radicalization in India today. And we are really honored to have him with us here today. I'll just read out his bio. So Dr. Adil Rasheed is a research fellow at Manohar Parrikar Institute for Studies and Analysis since 2016. Before that, he was a researcher and a political commentator in various international think tanks and media organizations for over 17 years, both in the United Arab Emirates and India. He is a distinguished fellow at USI. Dr. Rasheed is the author of the book ISIS, Race to Armageddon 2015. Welcome, Dr. Adil Rasheed.
Most thank you for having me with you.
Yeah. Dr. Rasheed, namaskar. So, as we all know that we are living in a very different world today. The world is in the stage of transformation. It's in the state of flux. People are talking about the change in the world order, and we are witnessing the kind of alignments and the new equations which are coming in the global geopolitics that are totally mind-baffling. They're surprising. Like even in Second World War and the First World War, there were clear-cut alliances. But today, what we see that simply confuses us.
Yes.
Like for example, in the recent when the Ukraine war was going on, when the Chinese expressed their support to the Russians, we all thought that well, China and Russia are on the same side and Americans are on the other side. When Trump came, he kind of started getting into negotiations with the Russians, and he was more or less supportive. I mean, more or less friendly towards the Russian state. And then we thought that well, he's trying to wean away Russia from the Chinese side. So different equations are emerging. Even in the Middle East, Americans are talking to Israelis and Iran at the same time. So in this, very transformational world, I feel that Turkey as a country occupies a very, very critical place, and it has a very interesting role to play. With India, we have a very, I would say, not very friendly equation with Turkey. Well, there are reasons for that. They've been supporting Pakistan. But my question to you today is that how do you look at Turkey's role in this, emerging world order in the current geopolitics? What are the nuances that you would like to, discuss while highlighting Turkey's role? Over to you, Dr. Rasheed.
Thank you very much. Yes, I mean, if you look at that meeting of Prime Minister Netanyahu with President Trump recently at the Oval Office, in which Trump started praising Erdogan, calling him a very smart person, and saying that he got into Syria after 1,000 odd years or 2,000 years. Well, those facts don't matter much when Trump is talking, but it did come as a surprise that why he should be championing Erdogan at a time when Turkey is itself in turmoil, and what kind of assurance does it give to the world? Why should he be speaking in the presence of Prime Minister Netanyahu? So the idea was very clear that, and then he said that perhaps he could bring about some kind of an understanding between Israel and Turkey's relations, which are frayed at the present moment. But the condition is that the Israeli Prime Minister has to be reasonable or something like that, which actually took many people by surprise. And that needs to be seen and looked into in greater detail than meets the eye. Because you find that since the Trump administration has come into the White House, you find many anti-Semitic developments taking place within America. You find many people close to the administration, whether it is in the media, whether it is Tucker Carlson saying why should America support Israel. You find a legislation attempt in the Congress, although it was put down, that America should not be supporting Israel. You find completely conspiratorial conspiracy theory like raking up the John F. Kennedy report, and you have the Epstein case, which falsely tries to rope in Israeli intelligence agencies into the investigation. So you're seeing that perhaps the American administration at the present time is showing. With Europe, it openly said that because Europe is not paying up for the NATO expenditure, Europe should get its act together. But you find that kind of unease between America and Israel also, although it has not come up in the open. In fact, even the proposal which Trump gave on the issue of Gaza, with his own fantastical scheme of opening a Riviera in Gaza, took the Israeli Prime Minister by surprise. And he hoped that perhaps he will work on it and perhaps there's something good about it. But you find that even in the negotiations, there has been some kind of misunderstanding between Israel and America. So you find that there's something fundamentally wrong going on there. The most surprising thing is that when Iran wanted to back out of the escalation which was happening in Middle East, at that very time, very fortuitously, Turkey broke the so-called land bridge by removing Bashar al-Assad and getting his own person, which actually saved Iran in many ways, because if that escalation would have continued, the Iranian state would have been exposed to that escalation. Although Iran said bad things about Turkey, Turkey said that it all happened on its own and whatever. And then you find an Al-Qaeda and ISIS tainted leadership with the most jihadist groups from Central Asia. These Central Asian Uzbeks, Uyghurs, and other people who have committed so many atrocities and killings, they are holding very high ranks in the Syrian military today. And you find that Erdogan also has his people in the new government, Syrians who have worked in Turkey, who have been educated in Turkey, and in a way Erdogan controls the HTS right now. You also find that Qatar has said that Hamas leaders should leave Qatar and it will not be the intermediary in the talks, and most of these Hamas leaders have reportedly moved to Turkey, which many experts believe Turkey will take the mediating role on the Israel-Palestinian issue now. So this appears to be some kind of a new development which even Israel, I don't think, would like to see. You find there is a growing joining of forces between Egypt and Turkey, with Egypt torpedoing many of the proposals made for peace, and America not taking any action on that. You find Sisi not going to the White House despite being invited to go there. And I heard one Iranian official at our center coming and saying that many of the tunnels which were made in Gaza were made by Egyptians, because it is very difficult for Iran to come all the way through the Red Sea. You also find it very strange that the American naval ships and they have not been able to bring down the Houthi attacks, and these people have been getting these missiles from perhaps Russia or China or whatever, and the Suez Canal is still blocked, which at a huge cost to the global naval maritime activities. And there are also indications that when you find that Ahmad al-Shara has given what you call a bayah, an oath of allegiance to many of the Ashari scholars in Idlib, who are Ashari. The Ashari scholars are not Sufis, but Sufism is linked to the Asharis. And the reason why the Chechen rebellion, the first Chechen war, which was in the 90s, and the second Chechen war, which ended in around 2009, it ended in favor of Russia mainly because the combination of the Ashari and the Salafi fell apart. The Ashari Kadirovs they said that Basayev was too brutal and he was attacking Basran school, and so even by their standards, they found the Salafis to be too extreme. But now, in bit through Turkey's initiation, which is also Ashari, there is a new compact between the Salafi Wahhabi jihadists and the Asharite jihadists. You also find Hamas, which is an Asharite and a Hanafi, getting along with both Qatar and Turkey. So there is a new combination of estranged jihadists earlier. All this points to perhaps Trump being Trump having so much issues with the European NATO allies, but when it comes to Turkey, he's so friendly towards Erdogan, which is surprising. But unless he has plans, or these American intelligence agencies have plans to use these extremists and these jihadists in Syria to then spread their influence into southern Russia, and more importantly into the 5 big states in Central Asia, and thereby open a new front against Russia towards its south, but more importantly against the BRI and against China, by creating in the beginning an Arab Spring-like democratic uprising, and then pushing, as that uprising is, these regimes try to stop them by letting in the jihadists come from behind. This is completely my speculation. There is no, I don't have anything, but it seems surprising that why would people having tens of millions of dollars of bounty on their heads become so normalized in Syria? And why should the Western nations suddenly and their foreign ministers meet this person, Ahmad al-Shara, in Syria? What is the big game here? And the same you find with the Taliban. You find Sirajuddin Haqqani overnight becoming a darling of America, who was alleged to have hit Americans many times, and these people have killed a lot of people. Suddenly, not only these leaders have got their bounties removed, their whole gang of jihadist organizations, they have been absolved as if without any counter-radicalization program. They have become suddenly reclaimed responsible people who are running governments. So there has to be much more than meets the eye. And it is in this context, I feel that America and Europe, you find increasingly that whether it is Italy, whether it is Ireland, in the Irish Parliament, many anti-Semitic remarks coming up. You find Norway giving recognition to the Palestinian state. You find the ICC ruling against Israel and its leaders. So you find a completely different kind of a scenario developing here. So Trump seems to be okay with the idea that even if it comes at the expense of Israel's security, he will prop up Erdogan as an Islamist leader, so that under him, many of these extremist factions can spread all across the Central Asia or and that region, in order to block the rising China and Russia, because America was thinking from the very beginning how to break up BRICS, which had become a very the same approach America has had with India, the way it has stopped the visa of students, the way a new wave of measures are being taken both by Canada and by America against Indians. There's a racial element to our students being victimized, and so on a variety of issues, you find when it comes to the trade deals and others, America not showing the kind of you find that probably it is feeling threatened by India also. If today China has emerged as a big power, America thinks that India would not be far behind after a few years. So you find a greater alienation of both Israel and India as well as China. So you can have a trifecta of India, China, and Israel coming together, because that is the best way to fight this growing wave of radicalization, propped up possibly by uh, uh, by the dubious games American intelligence agencies have always played. They have created Frankenstein monsters in the past, which have come back to haunt them. But perhaps this new game, which actually is sacrificing their own allies and also China. And if that is the case, then Pakistan, which is doing all kinds of acts of terrorism and which has had such a dubious history, suddenly Trump starts praising Pakistan for getting one of the terrorists arrested and handed over to America. You find that Trump talks about coming back to the Bagram Air Base, which and saying that he has come, explicitly says he has come to stop Chinese influence. So if you look at the clash of civilization theory, there were three civilizations which were enunciated in that. The first was three civilizations which could stop America's domination of the world. The first one was the so-called Muslim civilization, which has now been almost suborned by the West, and now they are using it to bring down the Indian and the Chinese civilizations and nations. And I think it is the time that India and China should understand that there is no point in China being a friend of Pakistan. We have to ensure that China understands that there should be a decoupling over there, and that these two Asian civilizations and Asian nations should come together. Now, there will be differences and there are problems, but probably that would be the best way to counter the Western threat as well as the growing threat of radicalization and extremism, and violent ones at that. And America, since the 1980s, has been propping up jihadists in Afghanistan with the Mujahideen movement to begin with. And when Pakistan's foreign minister is saying that for 30 years we have been doing the dirty work of America and Western countries, there has to be some element of truth in that. I mean, to me, it appears to be an admission of guilt, which I can back. So this is the basic premise. There are many questions here which perhaps are coming into your mind, and if I will try to answer them if as to the best. But this is just a proposition I'm laying out. I'm not saying it's a foolproof theory, but it is something which can be looked into.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rasheed. I mean, you have brought out a very interesting aspect of the global geopolitics, which is unfolding in front of us. But I mean, perhaps I guess we have not really looked at things from this angle, which you brought out. Okay? So now, I mean, because we have a time limitation for the video, so I'll have a few quick questions. First, the rising anti-Semitism in Europe, which is manifesting in the form of very, I would say, aggressive Protestant demonstrations against Israel, and some countries giving recognition to Palestine, like Norway and even France, thinking about that. So, what do you think is the main reason? Is it just because of the growing clout of the jihadists in the European society and politics, or there is more to it?
You see,
one more question related to that. If let's say this jihadism spreads to Central Asia and southern Russia from this very nicely placed Syrian jihadist regime backed by Turkey,
and Taliban backed by Turkey, yes.
Yes.
Taliban backed by Turkey.
Yes. What do Europeans get out of it? This is my first question.
You see, many European countries, and especially the Roman Catholics, did not like the idea that they fought crusades against the Muslim Arabs for 200 years. And finally, when the British in 1917 got control of the so-called Holy Land, they gave it to the Jews to make Israel. Why was it not made into a Christian state. So many of these Christians, they do not understand that that the European powers at that time, or Great Britain, were feeling so guilty about what they did to the Jews, that but they still feel that they should have got control of the Holy Land. So that so-called sympathy towards the Palestinians is actually hides their desire that it should have been Palestine should have been a Christian state, and the Jews who have got a state now, and they have re-emerged despite the persecution of that community. Some of the old anti-Semitic elements within the Christian world, as well as the Muslim world, there is a kind of a convergence when it comes to that. And so you find that in the Irish Parliament, which is a Roman Catholic country, which did not like England's decision, which is a Protestant country, you find the Irish people suddenly weeping in Parliament when it comes to referendums of. I'm not taking any sides here with the pro-Palestinian or pro-Israel or whatever, but you find that the sense of empathy which is being displayed. The other thing is that Trump, it seems, wants to get the far right elements in Europe and in Northern America to come up politically. For that, he is imposing tariffs all across Europe. So initially, these new far right groups will be speaking out against Trump. But being nationalist, eventually you will have more anti-Semitic far right movements taking center stage in Europe. This is the design. This appears to me to be the design. And Russia, there could be some pressure on Russia to concede and to show that Europe is still strong and Russia is to be shown its place. Although there is sympathy between Trump and Putin, and even the European far right and Putin, because Putin is seen as a Christian leader who has been able to withstand the so-called liberal or order, and who has risen up against the Bolshevik dominance. The Bolsheviks were also, many of them were Jewish. So there is a glorification of Putin as an upright Christian leader who stands for traditional Christian values. So perhaps there could be an insurrection against Russia for some time, but that is only to put Russia in its place. But the main thing is to break up BRICS and to put China under pressure, and also to put India in some kind of a check. And I think it is in that respect that you suddenly find the Pakistan economy recovering, the IMF giving loans and saying that they have done wonderful fiscal improvements and reforms. Suddenly you find that the debt to GDP ratio has become less. The default risk has improved tremendously, and Pakistan economy appears to be stabilizing. You find Pakistan getting arms from Turkey, and you find Bangladesh theater also being opened. And in this, not only China is there, but even Yunus went to the Clinton Foundation, which actually, and Bill Clinton was there in America, championing the way Yunus staged a coup. So the American hand in bringing about the Islamists to power in South Asia is very clear. So it is not just China, which is, but I think China needs to understand the bigger game here. This is what I think.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rasheed. In fact, I mean, I relate to what you are saying, and if we connect the dots together, many things fall in place. And I guess this is what's happening, like in terms of raising jihadists across the world. Let's say Afghanistan, Syria, Bangladesh. it falls pretty much in line with what the American deep state has been, or the Western deep state has been doing over the last several decades. And Trump, who came to power on the ground of fighting against or destroying the Western deep state, seems to have find a rapprochement with the deep state, and I guess, or either he's not aware, or some kind of a modus vivendi with the deep state, and the Americans continue with the same stuff, the same shenanigans tactics which they were doing earlier. Now, one last quick question that I have with you, 2 minutes I'll give you. So that is, given what you just mentioned, do you think that, I mean, if the situation escalates in West Asia between Israel and Iran, and more recently in South Asia, because of the latest developments between India and Pakistan, the Americans are going to betray or act against Israel and India? This context, I mean, what is the likelihood of that?
When Trump was asked about the terrorist attacks in India, Trump gave just a condemnation, and many of the Western, like the Guardian newspaper and many others, they have called them gunmen. They have not called them terrorists. And he says that it has been a Kashmir issue has been there for thousands of years. He did not give any assurance to Indians that he is fighting against terrorism or that he would take Pakistan to task. And the very confidence of Pakistan in saying, let there be an international arbitration to decide who did it, because it has got some assurances from somewhere that the verdict would go in its favor. So I don't, the Americans have always betrayed their allies, and India has never been an American ally. I think that when we are members of BRICS and SCO, we should stick to that. And we should also get the smugness when China that it has got the jihadists under control. That might backfire. And both India and China, being old Asian civilizations, need to together fight this growing threat.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Rasheed. It was wonderful. It was great to have you with us today. And the discussion was such an interesting one. I'm truly enlightened. We look forward to inviting you more often at Usanas Foundation. Once again, my sincere thanks to you for joining us today. Thank you.
Thank you much. Theory could have holes in it, but it is a way of thinking and looking at the world.